At one of the dungeons in the outskirts, Emily defeats a slime, but it seems to have dropped something unusual. Simultaneously, Ryota's vision is blacked out, but he hears the sound effect of the loot drop, which confuses him as it sounds like a video game. He comments on how tired he is and reluctant to get up. He hears Emily's puzzled voice as she mistakes him for a human-shaped piece of meat. Ryota springs up when he overhears her planning to cut him. His sudden movement and protest forces Emily to jump back in a defensive stance. She tells that he scared her and wants to know if he's a human. Ryota feels like that should have been obvious from his appearance. Emily is now wondering why a slime dropped a human upon its death, as they normally drop bean sprouts. Hearing these terminologies baffles Ryota, and he wonders if the lady before him is sane. She is also taken aback by the fact that he doesn't know what she is alluding to. She decides to demonstrate when a slime appears. Emily swings but misses. This allows the creature to counter, which decreases her HP significantly. However, she recovers and lands a blow with her giant hammer, exterminating it. Ryota claps, impressed by her strength. After a short while, the slime disappears and bean sprouts spawn. Emily explains that they are the drop item for this level 1 dungeon. She informs him that this is common knowledge, but this is news to Ryota as he holds his head in extreme confusion as to what is going on. He calms down a little as he wants to know if that is how bean sprouts are made. Emily confirms this and adds that everything in the world is dropped by monsters in dungeons. As they proceed, she confirms to him that they are not on Earth, as she has never heard of such a place. Ryota has also noticed they have only encountered slimes thus far. She explains that they are the only monsters on the first level. He asks if she's not going to explore the other levels, and she bluntly informs him that she's too weak, but Ryota feels differently based on what he has observed. She is hopeful that if she levels up, she will be able to go to level 2. He's shocked that people can level up. She demonstrates by heading to the status board to show him. The board displays her stats when she touches it. Emily is currently a level 3, and her ceiling is level 40. Seeing all the categories reminds Ryota of video games. He can see that her HP is B rank, and her strength is C, but the rest of her stats are very low, so he guesses that she's a typical power-based build. He notices that there's another page, so she flicks to it. This displays her drop status for various categories of items such as plants, animals, magic, and more. He observes that she has very low stats for that session. Emily explains that higher drop stat levels make it easier to get loot. It also increases the quantities of said loot. She encourages Ryota to check his own, and when he takes a look, it is abysmal. He is a level 1 and his ceiling is also level 1. His physical stats are also the lowest rank. However, when he turns to his drop stats, he is S rank in everything. Emily thinks it is very low as it is further down on the alphabet, but Ryota is sure that S rank is the highest, but he holds his reservations as it might be different in this world. He tests his theory as he looks for a weapon first. Emily lends hers for him to use, but he's not even able to lift it. She gives him a bamboo spear just as a slime appears. He struggles a little at first, but he finally gets a direct hit. Emily gets happy for him and is amazed by the amount of bean sprouts that drops. He asks her if she has ever gotten this many in one drop before. She informs him that she has been in the dungeon for about 2 years and has never seen a drop like that before. This confirms Ryota's suspicion that S rank is above A rank. He asks her if she has ever seen S rank stats anywhere. She lets him know that she has never even heard of it, and the conversation turns to his stomach when it rumbles. He blushes a little embarrassed. Emily gives a warm smile as she suggests they eat together. They set up camp and she prepares some of the bean sprouts stir-fry style, which Ryota finds delicious. After he finishes it, she serves him a soup made with the same ingredients. As soon as it hits his mouth, he comments on how warm it is as tears run down his face. This freaks out the lady, who thinks that there is something wrong with the food. Ryota assures her that the food is finger-licking good and reveals that it has been so long since he sat down to eat a warm meal with someone. In his previous life, all he did was work and wasn't even given overtime pay. He had such little time for himself that all he ate was cold food from the convenience store. Welcome to adult life. This ruined his health, which led to him being hospitalized. He worked even harder when he recovered to make up for lost time. He took a nap while working overtime, and the next thing he knew, he was dropped by a slime. Nothing he did in his previous life ever paid off, making every day a living hell. Emily hugs him and assures him that one's efforts always pay off in the end, and even the longer the delay, delay, the greater the reward. He calms down after a while and thanks her. Talk switches to him finding a place to stay. She notifies him that he will find lodging in the town just outside the dungeon, and she reveals that she lives in the dungeon. Her drops are all low, so she can't afford a place to stay, but her dream is to rent an apartment someday. He makes a mental note of this and gets up to leave, but Emily gives him her bamboo spear and explains that he will have a hard time without a weapon. Ryota promises that he will return it someday, and she informs him that she's always in the level 1 dungeon. They end things by introducing themselves officially, but she finds his name strange. Some time passes since that meeting, and Ryota is starting to understand the economy of this world. The currency is called pilos. The bean sprouts he got in his first drop are worth 200. A room for one night is 2,000 pilos. They have something like ramen in this world, which is 500. He has verified the prices of the things he wants, and all that is left is to work to get them. He does just that by harvesting bean sprouts from level 1. He initially thought that nothing would pay off for him since he's capped at level 1, but this overpowered skill that puts all his drop stats at S rank has given him hope that he can make things work this time around. Soon after, he brings Emily to a rundown house and alerts her that he rented it with the earnings he made in 3 days. Emily is shocked to hear that it is 20,000 pilos a month for the place. The guy has heavy bags under his eyes as he hands her over the key, which confuses her a bit. He lets her know that he got the apartment for her. He promises that he will cover her rent, so she doesn't need to worry. Emily is lost for words and feels like she can't accept such a gift. He enlightens her that it is a gesture of appreciation for the delicious soup. He wishes the place was nicer, but he wanted to find an accommodation for her to stay as quickly as possible. She notices bags under his eyes and the blister that covers his hands from overusing the bamboo spear. He promises to wash the natural ketchup on the spear when he returns it. As he excuses himself, she holds him back and lets him know that she is willing to make the soup for the rest of her life so that they can enjoy it. Ryota's city boy mind has already figured that she wants them to stay together. He later comes to Urza with more bean sprouts to cash, and after a good day hunting, she rounds him up to 2,000 pilos for his loot as a little reward for the large amounts he normally brings. As they chat, he comments that the bean sprouts don't fetch a lot, so he's starting to contemplate heading to level 2. Urza discloses that the monster in the second level drops carrots. He's not used to that part of this world. She remembers that there is a new dungeon that came about recently. Ryota is surprised to hear that dungeons just spawn like that. She remarks on how difficult it is to pronounce the name, but Ryota doesn't struggle to say it. Her information dump continues as she reveals that the Neptune group is investigating the monsters that inhabit the dungeon and what they drop. This is his first time hearing of such a drop, so naturally the receptionist informs him that they are the most powerful organization in the world. Their conversation is cut short when the people waiting begin to show their frustration. As he bids Urza goodbye, she tries to ask him on a date, but my guy has his future sweetheart at home, so he turns her down and rushes off. Urza's colleague tries to tease her for being rejected. All the while, Ryota arrives in front of his house, but he's not sure what to say as it has been decades since he came home to a place where someone waits for him. He opens the door to find Emily already waiting with a warm welcome smile. He detects how well she cleaned the place in his absence. The abode sparkles like new. She got a little excited because it was her first time cleaning a house. She gives him a hot towel and green tea to begin his relaxation after a long day. She tells him to be seated while she gets to serve him the food. Ryota is moved by the gesture and lets her know that she doesn't need to do all of that. Maybe it is a disclaimer as he's scared of the backlash from the rapid members of a certain group out there. They begin to discuss the new dungeon, and Emily adds from the reports that it is a useless dungeon where nothing drops at all. This catches Ryota's attention because in a world where everything drops in dungeons, the idea of one that drops nothing is very intriguing. So he decides to explore it himself. As he ventures further, he's attacked by a skeleton, but he manages to take it out with the help of a falling pillar. After he eliminates it, it disappears. However, it drops a seed that Ryota picks up, but it disintegrates in his hand. Shortly after, the system alerts him that his HP has been increased by 1. Emily is stunned to see that his HP has increased to C rank despite his level not going up. This confirms that the seed's effect was real, so he proceeds and ends a lot of skeletons. Emily joins him, but when she eliminates the monsters, nothing drops. She's also not able to pick the seeds that drop when Ryota defeats the monsters. He's also the only one that can hear the system's voice. After that run, he checks his stats, and his HP has jumped to S rank. He feels like in a world where drops are everything, having some that only certain people can touch would throw off the balance of things. So they shouldn't exist, but that's not the case. This is the first time Emily has seen someone getting stronger without leveling up. Ryota concludes that this new arrival is a stat-increasing dungeon for S ranks only. One night, Emily serves him some delicious food as he updates her on his intention to go to the second level. She's worried and warns him not to be reckless as she has noticed that he likes to overwork himself and stay out late. This touches him as he never had someone that worried for him in his old world, so he promises to come home before nightfall. Emily is happy to hear this. The following day, he sets off and is faced with a sleepy slime at the level 2 dungeon. He takes a hit but doesn't feel anything because of his S rank HP. This allows him to tank a few more hits before he finally manages to defeat the slime. It drops a giant carrot, but before he can collect it, he's faced with another slime. Another party defeats it before it gets to Ryota. They check his rank and make fun of him before they take their carrot and leave. He turns around and he's confronted by Eve, who hits him on the head stating that she hates low levels. She's confused when her attack does nothing, so she leaves. Ryota heads back home with a few carrots and Emily is shocked by the size. She plans to use them to make some nice food. He also informs her that he made over 8,000 pilos on his hunt. If he can keep this up, life is going to be good for them. A knock on the door interrupts them. He opens it to find Eve standing there. She hits him on the head again before confessing her love for him. Emily pops out to see what the commotion is all about. Emily wonders who the woman at the door is. Ryota is equally as puzzled and asks if bunny girls live in this world like regular humans. Eve responds with another karate chop to his head, which confuses him. She dashes off for a moment and returns dragging an adventurer. The guy complains as he's spun around, but that comes to a sudden end when Eve hits him in the head with the same karate chop. Both Ryota and Emily watch in horror as natural ketchup that isn't edible gushes from the victim. Eve is confused because Ryota is also a low level, so he should meet the same fate as the adventurer, but when she attacks, he's still alive. He can't believe that that is what results she was expecting all this while. The unfortunate victim's colleagues rush over to recover their comrade. He's reluctant to answer Eve, but he's internally aware that it's because his HP is at S rank. Ryota changes the topic, wanting to know why she came to his abode. Eve whips out a giant carrot, stating that she got it in the level 2 dungeon. The duo remember Ryota heading back after gathering their carrot loot and felt a sudden presence for a moment, but thought nothing of it. Turns out that it was Eve who quickly recovered a fallen carrot, and the bunny girl was excited. Back in the present, she hugs that carrot while stating that she wants more amazing carrots like the one she retrieved. The bunny girl looks over his shoulder and notices some on the table and Emily holding a bunch. She gets excited to see the vegetables and begins to drool as she steps towards the orange sticks, but Ryota informs her that what she sees belongs to them. Emily smiles and invites her to come in and eat. She peels the carrots and cuts them into noodle-style strips before stir-frying them with the leaves and flesh. She also makes a soup with the carrots and bean sprouts. Eve continues to drool as she is served. They all sit together to eat, and both the bunny girl and Ryota compliment Emily on her cooking skills, which makes her blush as she encourages them to eat more. After a short while, they finish the meal and Eve gives her formal thanks for the food before suddenly getting up and saying bye to her host. Emily and Ryota are a bit flabbergasted by her abrupt departure, but Emily encourages her to come visit again. The guy finds that whole interaction a bit strange and points out that they didn't even get the chance to ask for her name. Emily also appreciates Ryota because thanks to him, she can eat meals with company. This triggers a sad memory for the guy as he also used to eat alone in his previous life. The following day, Ryota finds himself at the second level of the Nihonium dungeon where he is ambushed by a zombie-like monster. He thrusts with his trusty bamboo spear, but it breaks due to the weight of his attacker. The zombie hits him with a straight punch, but it does little damage to him because of his S rank HP. It turns to a YouTube star level boxing event as Ryota and the zombie trade blows. He eventually gets the upper hand and defeats it. The monster drops a seed that he picks up, wondering which stat it increases. The system alerts him that his strength has increased by 1. He's happy to hear this, but it is short-lived when he overhears Eve's reaction to what she just witnessed. The bunny girl quickly drops down and attacks him again, wanting to know what kind of drop that was. Ryota is in a predicament because everyone thinks that nothing drops in Nihonium, and he doesn't want to tell her about the stat-increasing rewards that the dungeon provides for those with S-rank drop stats. Eve continues to stare at him, waiting for an answer. He tells her not to talk so loudly. The two strike a carrot for silence deal. She demands for him to go to the other dungeon to get her carrots, but Ryota wants to level up more. He later fulfills his promise and gets some carrots after he raises his strength from F to D rank. He found it easier to take out the slimes with his stat boost, so he managed to harvest more. He makes his way to the area where the items are sold for money. There he sees Eve waiting. As he walks over to her, the other adventurers whisper among themselves, calling him insane for approaching the killing rabbit like that. The people gasp in disbelief as he hands her over the carrot and finally notice the stare and wonders what the problem is. They are all stunned when she approves. As Eve eats the carrot, Urza rushes over with a worried look and questions Ryota if he's acquainted with her. He just explains that she became fond of him when he gave her carrots. Everyone is dumbfounded by these revelations. Urza promptly notifies him that she will buy the carrots for double the retail value. This confuses Ryota at first, but she discloses that Eve is known for her powerful karate chop and being a carrot connoisseur. Her catchphrase "dead" or "carrot" is well known, and people have lost their lives because they gave her bad-tasting carrots. So any carrot that gets Eve's seal of approval is sure to sell for a higher price. They are willing to do anything to get them. She gives him 15,000 pilos for the bunch. Ryota does the maths, and if he can keep this up for a month, that would be 450,000 pilos. He turns to thank Eve for inflating the value of his carrots with her approval, but she only wants gratitude to be shown by giving her more of the orange sticks. She tries to give him the chop when he informs her that he doesn't have more carrots, but he blocks, which shocks everyone. He promises to get her more the following day since he just sold everything. He also tells her to call him Ryota and not low level from that moment forward. The following day, Ryota and Emily go to the second level of the Tellula dungeon together, where they harvest a lot of carrots that she stuffs in her bag. Emily is impressed with their haul. Ryota excuses himself to explore a little further when he comes across two exhausted adventurers trying to defeat a slime. They are in such a bad state that their attack lack power, so it just bounces off the monster. Their squad captain sees them struggling and quickly defeats it. The two apologize as he scolds them for being weak. He explains that the reason he's overworking them is because he sees their potential and wants to help. This reminds Ryota of the boss he had at his old job that used to deploy such tactics to trick his subordinates to do more work. He is sure that this captain is doing the same. Emily suggests they take a break and have lunch. He is impressed with the spread when she unboxes all the food. Eve smells the carrot dishes and rushes over. The trio enjoys the various elements of the lunch. They are interrupted when the captain and his exhausted party pass by. He comments on how lazy the trio is and how their behavior disrespects the sacred dungeon. He goes as far as to say that their laziness will impact their drops. Eve has had enough of the cap and splits a carrot for the apprentice to taste. They comment on how nice it is, which disproves the captain's point. He retreats when he realizes that Eve is stronger than him. After their food, they head back to sell their haul, and Urza is impressed. Ryota flexes on her, saying that they got more drops, but they were unable to carry them all. She suggests they get a magic cart. Emily points out the many examples on display behind them. It is revealed that it enables them to carry more items, which in turn increases production efficiency. Urza directs them to a shop that sells magic carts. Ryota wants to check them out, feeling like it will be handy for them. They enter the store and are met by a little girl who calls her father from the back. He shows them his latest mod, which includes a monster detection system, but it costs 10 million pilos, and the price makes their hearts skip a beat. They look for the standard ones, and they cost between 2 to 3 million. The duo didn't expect them to be so expensive. Since it was out of their budget, they promised to come when they have saved enough. The duo make their way back home when they hear a commotion coming from a different section of the town. People can be heard screaming and running, stating that the commotion is being caused by a stray. Ryota asks Emily what a stray is. She explains that there are kinds of monsters that appear when one leaves drops in parts of dungeons where there aren't any people. The monster comes into view, and it's a giant gorilla. It goes on a rampage, destroying buildings. Ryota looks on in shock as the adventurers are running away. Emily discloses that strays don't drop any items, so most people don't want to fight them because it's not worth it. The magic cart shop owner runs past with his kid, but stops and advises the duo to run away too. Urza has not been fortunate and has fallen while running. The gorilla spots her and attacks with a punch, but Ryota rushes in and blocks it with his bare hands. Everyone watches in shock as he begins to struggle to hold the attack back at bay, Eve and some adventurers offer their assistance. While they distract the monster, he evacuates Urza to a safe location, although she is sad that their town is going to get destroyed. The other adventurers are also complaining that their attacks are not affecting the monster. Ryota refuses to let that happen as he assures her that he will exterminate the stray. Emily decides to join his support. He begins to run towards the monster, and it launches a stone at him, but Emily comes in with her hammer and smashes it before it reaches Ryota. The guy keeps running while the others hold off the monster's attempts to stop Ryota from getting closer. This leaves it wide open for a headbutt. He then follows up with a punch to the stray's abdomen, which defeats it. He lands relieved that the town is safe, and everyone begins to cheer and thank him after witnessing his heroic feat. He's just happy that he gets recognition for his hard work in this world, unlike his previous one. His attention is taken when he hears an item drop. He secretly goes to find the item with Emily. When they spot it, Ryota is shocked to see the item. Ryota picks up a gun and bullets, knowing full well that such a weapon shouldn't exist in this world. What is even more strange is that it dropped from a stray, which is not supposed to drop anything. He equips the weapon and makes his way to the Nihonium dungeon, where he reviews his stats before entering inside to test his new Glock. A zombie snaps him from his daydream with its approach. Ryota quickly aims and fires his first shot, which takes a chunk from the zombie's shoulder. He's surprised by how effective it is and takes a more solid stance and lands an ending shot that exterminates it. Ryota is confident that it works just like a gun from his world and is impressed by its performance. 3 more enemies stagger towards him, and the world's first gunslinger takes his stance again and begins to shoot at them. He misses some shots, but his accuracy is passable enough that he gets the job done before they get close to him. The used shells disappear as they hit the ground. When he grabs another round from his pouch, he wonders how he's to get more bullets when this finishes. Ryota ponders if they too will only drop from strays, and he decides to use his shots wisely till he knows how to replenish them. All the while, at the second level of the Tellula dungeon, Emily tries to attack a slime and misses. As it jumps up to counter, Ryota makes it in time and eliminates it. She turns just as the giant carrot falls to the floor and is excited to see Ryota, so he gives her a welcoming smile. Soon after, they sit together to have lunch, and she comments on how amazing his new weapon is now that she has seen it in action. Emily points out that she has never seen anything like it before. He's not shocked to hear that, and he informs her that his strength is currently at B rank thanks to his new weapon. With this level up in power, he suggests they explore the next stage of the Tellula dungeon. He's just happy that he's making progress in this new world. He notices that their carrot offerings have not triggered Eve to rush to join them for lunch. They just take it as she is busy. Emily suggests they save the carrots for her later just in case she turns up looking for them. Ryota wouldn't be surprised if she showed up at their house. His attention goes back to the delicious lunch that Emily has made for him. His compliments remind her that she made some tea too, so she pours some for him to use to wash down the food. Ryota finds the whole setup relaxing, and after their lunch, the duo head to the next level. Before they proceed deeper, Ryota wants to know if Emily has ever ventured this far. She honestly informs him that all she knows are the names of the monsters that inhabit the level and their drops. Emily reveals that the monsters on this level are called cocker slimes, and they drop pumpkins. Ryota is looking forward to the meals that Emily is going to make showcasing the pumpkins. He notices the insects scurrying around and is not comfortable with them. The guy bets that girls would run away terrified of them. A sudden loud bang pulls him from his hypothesis. He looks over, and it is Emily who has used unreasonable force to end one roach. Ryota remarks on her actions, and she turns around with a crazed look on her face. As a clean freak, the cocker slimes brings out a different side of her. When she defeats one and the pumpkin drops, she turns back to normal. After seeing that scary version of Emily, Ryota tries to make their exploration short and suggests they get back to get more carrots. As they leave, Emily suddenly stops and grips her giant hammer tightly. Ryota immediately realizes that she has spotted some cocker slimes and begins to panic. He looks down and sees a unit of them emerging from a fallen block. Their large numbers cause Emily to transform into something from paranormal activity. She warns Ryota that she might never regain her humanity, and this triggers him to act as he pleads with her to allow him to take care of them. He pulls out his gun, and with great concentration, he begins to end the cocker slimes as quickly as possible to prevent her from going to the dark side. With the threat eliminated, She turns back to normal and comments on how big Ryota's pumpkin drops are. There are so many that they block the entrance. Emily shows a glimpse of her dark self as she warns him that they should leave quickly before more spawn. His prayers are answered when Eve clears the way looking for her daily carrots. Emily shows her their location and encourages her to take them. The rabbit doesn't waste time and takes her dues. They bring as many pumpkins as possible to the surface and take them in batches to trade. Upon their return, the last batch is destroyed. Ryota assumes that animals got to them, meaning they can't sell them. He looks over only to find Dark Emily has taken over as she states that the copper slimes are around. She hits the pumpkins, which causes plenty of them to come out. Ryota is confused as to why they are out of the dungeon. He springs into action again and shoots what he can till he realizes that he's out of bullets. He's left with no other option but to attack them with a stone in desperation. He finally succeeds in exterminating them, but he's exhausted. Emily turns back to normal, and they are surprised to see that the defeated cocker slimes dropped bullets. Ryota explains the pumpkin situation to Urza, who informs them that if dropped items are left where no people are around, monsters spawn in the area. Ryota remembers that Emily explained something similar when the gorilla attacked. He apologizes for keeping her waiting and begins to think that it might be possible to force strays to spawn. He rushes off home eager to try it out while Urza was asking him out to dinner. When he arrives, he places the carrots down and hides, hoping that monsters will spawn, but Eve eats it instead. He starts over multiple times because she kept taking them, but with the last one, he sees success as the carrot spawns a slime. He quickly takes it out and bullets drop, confirming his theory. He gets the idea to try it with an enemy from the first level of the Nihonium dungeon. The following day, he heads there, but because his HP is now S rank, he gets no stats boost when he defeats enemies. However, he thought he could carry the seeds out of the dungeon and swan a stray, but the seeds disintegrate. He gives up and prepares to leave to link up with Emily, who is at the other dungeon. However, he is suddenly ambushed by a skeleton. After a brief struggle, he kicks it out of the dungeon and worries that it will turn into a stray, but it just disappears before it hits the ground. This confuses him, so he goes to Urza, who discloses that the monsters disappears if they leave a dungeon. If that wasn't the case, the place would be overrun with strays. This explains that is why there's only one type of monster on each floor. She notes that he is a very talented adventurer, but there seems to be a fundamental hole in his knowledge base. She tries to use it as an opportunity to rizz him up, stating that she kind of finds the dichotomy charming. But the guy is not a city boy, so he has already gone to implement the information he just learned from her. He heads back to the dungeon and throws one skeleton outside again, but this time, he shoots it just before it disappears. His plan worked to confirm that if he kills an enemy outside its floor, it should count as a stray. The system alerts him that he has acquired freezing bullets. He retrieves it and fires, and to his shock, the bullet has a freezing after effect on the target that it hits as it engulfs it in ice. He can already see the useful application of this new ability. Ryota already begins to utilize it when he teams back up with Emily. He employs the freeze bullet to stun the target, giving his partner the chance to land an attack. He got the idea from games, as it is a combo that is often used. Emily is astonished by the attack, and he explains how it works, confessing that it takes a long time for him to get the bullets. He only intends to use them during emergencies. They continue their hunting as it rains outside. They come back out just when it stops. Both of them warn each other to watch their step as they take the narrow path down the cliff. The two meet a duo standing in the way, insulting each other. Ryota is a minding his own business type of guy, so he initially pleads with the people to excuse them while they pass. The merchant-looking man gets him involved when he orders Ryota to pull the cargo that has fallen down the cliff back up for him. The guy states that he will be compensated by the person he's arguing with. Ryota inspects the situation and concludes that it would be possible but difficult. It is a magic cart full of drops. Since there is no one near it, they all fear that it might turn into a stray. The lady is ready to burn the cart as she points out that there are some drops from a few troublesome monsters. The guy knocks her to cancel her spell and informs her that the perfume inside will sell for a fortune, so it can't be destroyed. He lets them know that he hired a lot of adventurers just to collect what is before them. As the two begin their argument again, he gets possessed by a monster called a Femini and suddenly attacks. Ryota wastes no time and shoots the monster, which frees him and gets him some bullets. The lady orders him to take the unconscious merchant and run. She plans to head down to distract the rest of the monsters so that Ryota can rush to town to gather the army. Emily worries about her, but she explains that she was hired to serve as an escort, so the responsibility for the accident is hers. It reminds Ryota of a situation in his previous life, but he didn't help. This time he is determined to do something. He fires multiple freeze shots which stops the monsters in their tracks. Emily comes down with an attack that eliminates them. The lady thanks Ryota for saving her, and the duo make their way back to town where Emily checks her stats, and she has leveled up significantly. This is due to the fact she defeated so many high-level opponents at once. She gives all the thanks to Ryota. Ryota and Emily explore the 4th level of the Tellulu dungeon when they come across a rare monster. Ryota quickly freezes it in place before eliminating it with a shot. Emily informs him that it is the first time she has seen a rare monster drop anything. Ryota picks up the bracelet and gives it to her, asking her to put it on. The lady blushes, telling him how joyful this makes her and how she will treasure it. Hearing this makes him happy. He remarks that she will be able to rake in the profits with it. This statement confuses her, so he reveals that the system announced that the necklace doubles the wearer's items that drop when a monster is defeated. Emily gets a little upset as she was expecting a more romantic moment between the two, but Ryota is oblivious to the fact. They carry on their dungeon riad when Emily defeats her first monsters since getting the bracelets, and she's amazed to see the double drop rate in action. She later prepares some of the bamboo shoots they harvested. When Ryota notices that the kitchen is too small for them, he brings up the topic of them moving to a bigger place when they save a little bit more money, and Emily is happy to do that. The following day, Ryota comes into cash and his bamboo shoots. However, there is a little issue as Urza finds it difficult to appraise them. Macy spots his produce and interrupts with a plea for him to let her have the bamboo shoots. He's a little confused by Roronoa Zoro being lost in yet another anime, but he compromises, offering to give her one. She picks one, skins, and then chops it swiftly, which causes them to land perfectly on a plate. The lady tastes it and begins to go crazy at how good they are despite it being raw, as normally they are bitter. She has never had bamboo shoots so sweet before. Macy quickly gets herself together and pleads for him to allow her to buy them from him. He looks over to Urza, but she promptly informs Macy that she can buy them all. She picks them, informing him that she can't put a price on this great flavor, so she gives him 20,000 pilos as a token of her gratitude. He feels like that is a bit of a high price to pay for some bamboo shoots, but at this point, Macy is long gone. Urza explains that Macy is a famous foodie, and any food that she approves of will fetch a high price among the gourmet crowd. Urza sees this as a big business opportunity, so she skips all the formalities and pleads that Ryota should sign an exclusive contract with them. She is sure that his bamboo shoots will soon be a hot topic all over the kingdom, and when that wave comes, she wants the rights to sell them as a branded product. This is great news for Ryota, but he's skeptical as to their worth. Urza assures him that it is the real deal and offers to pay him a signing-on bonus in addition to the cost of the shoots. Ryota agrees to the deal when he sees her eagerness and even states that he will trust her with all of it. She gives a very happy response. Ryota later heads over to the Nihonium dungeon to improve his strength stats. With a little bit more effort, he will have that to S rank soon. He's surprised to see a lady getting attacked by a skeleton and prepares to save her, but she signals her men to apprehend it, which leaves it open for her to take off its head, which then flies into her magic cart. One of the men pleads to Ryota not to get in their way, as it is Princess Margaret before him. He waves to her and is a little surprised that a member of the royal family is in such a dangerous place. The attendant reveals that recent research has concluded that the creatures in these previously dropless dungeons drop air, so they're looking to dox that air and sell it. They think they will get even more money since the air was captured by Princess Margaret. Ryota admires her magic cart because he wants to buy one to make dungeon exploration easier. When he gets home, he has a meeting with Emily to discuss whether to get a new house or get the magic cart. The two agree to get the cart first, as it would allow them to gather more drops per run, which would enable them to get their home faster. Ryota feels bad since he promised they would move homes, but Emily is okay with it. The duo agrees to go to the magic card shop the following day to check some out. Emily gets excited because they would get to see Olga again, who is the owner's little girl. Day breaks and they arrive at the shop only to hear the cries of Olga. The duo quickly rushes in. The girl informs them that her father hasn't come home after he told her of his journey to go pick a specific type of flower. Emily reveals that the arsenic dungeon is the only one that drops flowers in the area. They decide to go there to check first. After a short while, the two arrive and search the dungeon. Emily points out that the monsters on that level are called Dandaroks, but they don't move nor attack. As they proceed, The path is obstructed by the monsters. Ryota tries to shoot them, but his bullets bounce off. Emily takes over and destroys them with a single attack. Ryota is impressed with her increased power and strength. They collect the flowers and continue where they find Olga's father on the ground. They worriedly rush over to him only to see the old-timer sleeping. Ryota tries to wake him, but he's far gone. Emily gets angry that he was sleeping while his daughter was worried and crying. The lady uses her hammer to hit the floor next to him, which jolts him awake. With a dark aura around her, she informs him of the state he left his daughter in, and the geezer apologizes immediately. He tells them that he came to get the parts for his incredible new magic cart prototype, which requires heavy and light rocks. He has already captured the heavy rock, but he's struggling to get the light rock, hence his delay. The Dandaroks also blocked his path, so he couldn't make any progress. He draws their attention to the light rocks above them. They are lighter than air and are rare monsters. Ryota can see why it was difficult to get. He gives Emily a boost, but comments on how heavy her hammer is despite him recently getting his strength to S rank. With one swing she defeats the monster, and it spawns a blue rose. Orton informs them that is what he was looking for. They head outside the dungeon for the next step. He leaves the rose on the floor and instructs everyone to hide, which turns into a stray. Orton makes a dash for it, but he misses the catch. Ryota shoots it with his ice bullets with the added weight. The monster begins to fall back down. The cart builder retrieves it, and they all head back to the shop where he completes his latest magic cart. He gives it to Ryota, but the guy is reluctant to take such an expensive gift. Orton explains he's mainly giving it to him because he protected the town from the gorilla stray. Olga alerts them to take good care of her father's magic cart, and Emily encourages him to accept it as a reward for all his hard work. He decides to accept the cart with much gratitude. They hit the dungeons right away and load it up with bamboo shoots. Emily observes that they have gathered twice as many as usual. Since it's full, Ryota volunteers to head back into town to cash it in. Emily decides to go home to start making dinner. Ryota arrives at the item exchange, walking in on some commotion between Urza and a burly-looking adventurer. The guy feels like Urza has underpaid him for his harvest, but she explains that there are no mistakes with the exchange. He gets irate, telling her to shut up because he's sure that he should have gotten over 10,000 pilos. The guy continues his accusation that Urza has ripped him off and demands she pay 20,000 pilos for his trouble. Everyone can tell he's the liar and look around to see if anyone will stand up for the lady. Urza isn't fazed by his intimidation tactics and tells him all she can give him is his due amount of 8,400 pilos. The guy cocks back to throw a punch, but Ryota stops him by shooting an ice bullet at his hand. He informs the troublemaker that Urza would never lie about the list price. Ryota proves his point by using his magic cart, which has an item drop calculator built in, so he appraises the guy's harvest, and it comes up to the exact amount that Urza quoted. Everyone is taken aback at the features of Orton's latest magic cart. This Mario gone rogue looking guy just wants trouble because he accuses Ryota of being part of the scam. He can't contain his anger any longer. He flexes his muscles and breaks the ice around his arm. The male Karen throws a power punch at Ryota, and Urza screams, fearing that he's going to get hurt. Ryota casually stops the punch with one hand and informs the troublemaker that he's going to have to take a little nap. He gives the troublemaker a heavy slap that sends him flying into the wall, knocking him out cold. Everyone cheers in amazement at what they just witnessed. Ryota follows a shaken-up Urza to the back to make sure that she's fine. The lady thanks him for saving her again and explains that she knows how the adventurers risk their lives to gain the items, so she always handles them with the utmost care. She wants people to feel comfortable bringing their goods to sell to her, so she doesn't want to burden them. Ryota lets her know that everyone needs help occasionally and gives examples of how she has helped him since they have known each other. He promises to come to her help if anything like that happens again. The lady blushes while getting closer to him and planting one on him. She expresses her personal feelings for him and insists that he remembers it after he leaves. Ryota slides down the wall in shock, but also blushes. He later heads back to the 4th level of the Tellulu dungeon with Emily. They gather over 20,000 pilos worth of bamboo shoots, but when they check with their magic cart, it blows his expectations, stating that they have harvested 200,000 pilos worth of bamboo. With this amount, they have enough to get a new house. They find one and begin to pack their things. As they do the moving, Ryota gets sentimental about the place. Emily is also a bit sad because they have so many memories in there. Ryota suggests they keep their lease on their old place. That way, they can always come back to enjoy their roots. Emily worries about the expenses, but he assures her that they can afford it as they are making good money now. Some time passes, and the two have settled into their new house. Ryota comes down after a good night's rest, and Emily already has breakfast ready. He gets excited as her breakfast is always nice, and he's surprised to see that Eve has joined them. They all sit together and happily enjoy the food. The outside of the house is shown, and it looks like something out of MTV Cribs. One evening, Emily prepares dinner in her upgraded kitchen and is just grateful for how life is going for her now. All the while, Ryota deals with a mummy at Nihonium. He complains about the different types of enemies that plague the place. He reaches into his pouch to reload and finds that he's out of bullets, but he picks up the seed dropped from defeating the mummy. It disappears, and the system alerts him that his speed has increased by 1. He's suddenly ambushed by another enemy. Ryota grapples with it for a moment and displays his improved speed by landing a quick kick that sends the mummy flying. Coupled with his S-rank strength, he decides to conserve bullets from now on and use his fists and legs. He later makes his way to the item exchange center where he enjoys some alone time on one of the tables. His bliss is interrupted by a greeting from Neptune, who confirms that he's talking to Ryota before sitting with him on the table. They are soon joined by 2 ladies who embrace Neptune. The 3 of them stare at Ryota, who looks at them perplexed as he has never seen them before. He begins to get salty, noticing that Neptune is a stud but wants to know what they want from him. Neptune expresses his desire to arm wrestle Ryota so he can assess his power for himself, as he has heard about his display of strength when he slapped that troublemaker. Neptune places his hands on the table ready to go. This confidence only aggravates Ryota because the guy is good looking and has riz, which can be deduced from the cute girls hanging onto him. Ryota accepts the challenge, and the 2 lock arms and begin. Ryota instantly notices Neptune's freakish strength. After a brief struggle, Ryota comes out as the victor to everyone's shock. When the crowd calls Neptune's name, it rings a bell, and he remembers Urza telling him that they are the most powerful organization in the kingdom. He asks for one more round, but Ryota declines since the activity is starting to draw a crowd. Neptune pretends to get up and launches a surprise punch, which Ryota counters with his own, which sends the trio flying. Neptune gets up and invites Ryota to join his family. Everyone is shocked to see him get scouted by the group. That evening, he recounts the story to Emily and reveals that he turned the offer down. This surprises her, but he explains that he has no interest in belonging to any groups. He just wants to have more fun living at their mansion. Emily is happy to hear this and proud of Ryota's evening. She even calls him a hero. Eva interjects to tell him he is arrogant for a low level, but Ryota is just shocked to see her around. The following day, he walks through the Nihonium with his head still inflated after being called a hero. He comes across the princess and her party again. He notices some boxes stacked and wonders what they are. The subordinate explains that they are their company's late produce, and it's called Pandora's Box. It gets demonstrated when the princess defeats a monster, and her subordinate opens the box to suck up the dropped items. It even displays the face of the person who found them. They designed it because people didn't believe that their heir was cultivated by the princess. He sees that Ryota is an adventurer, so he hands him some of the boxes to use and promote to other adventurers. He is apprehensive about taking it at first till he thinks of something. He later comes out of the dungeon excited because he can use the boxes to gather seeds that he can bring outside. With this, he can create strays, which in turn allows him to harvest a lot of bullets at once. He tries this with the zombies and mummies and gets 2 new types of bullets, enabling him to use fire shots. But the other one is not disclosed. Emily joins him, and he feels a powerful chill as he prepares to open the last box. She informs him of a magic storm that is coming, so he heads back to the exchange to cash in what he has picked up for the day. After his last encounter with Urza, they are both a little nervous, but they relax after some time. Urza further explains that magic storms are a very rare natural phenomenon. When they occur, no one can use magic at all, and some of the bigger ones can affect the ability to use magic inside the dungeons. The one coming is one of such magnitude, so all those who use magic have taken the day off. This drop-in activity also affects how people shop, since there are fewer drops available. Their conversation is cut when Reyes barges in and shouts for help. His partner Rosa is trapped in Silicon Dungeon. They all gasp, but Ryota is confused by everyone's reaction. Urza reveals that it is one of the dungeons intended for magic users only. Everyone is perplexed as to why they went out, given that all magic users have taken the day off. The other adventurers turn away from him as he pleads for help. Urza speculates that they didn't know since the duo is new to town. Neptune interjects, finding the situation tragic. He tries to recruit Ryota, but he's rejected again. Even Neptune is reluctant to help Reyes because the monsters inside the dungeon are highly resistant to physical attacks. Ryota decides to help when he remembers Emily calling him a hero. He rushes to the dungeon and is happy that his special bullets work despite the storm. He runs out of special bullets as he progresses through the levels because he's trying to preserve his drops with his ice bullets. He also finds Rosa badly injured on the floor. All the while, Eve and Emily rush to the dungeon with Ryota's box. Emily reveals that he reminds her of her mother, and she gets a flashback. When she was younger, she followed her mother into the dungeons. She was a powerful adventurer who saved people and lectured them to increase their survival chances. Sadly, Emily's mother passed away succumbing to her wounds after defeating a stray dragon. In the end, she was just happy that everyone managed to escape safely. Emily carried her out of the dungeon. The flashback ends just as they reach Ryota, who's being chased by a swarm of monsters because his normal bullets don't do any damage. Luckily for him, they have lured some strays which he defeats to reload his special bullets. They band together to defeat the rest of the monsters and emerge from the dungeon where Reyes waits. He's happy to see her retrieved, but is worried about the injuries of his partner. Ryota assures him that she will be fine. He fires the unknown bullet at her, causing her to heal. Ryota finally discloses that it was a healing bullet. Reyes thanks them and leaves with his partner, while Ryota thanks Eve and Emily for the help. They decided to head back home where Emily offers to cook. She walks on hoping her mom is watching her happy life with pride. The following day, Ryota heads to the exchange to get Urza to appraise some watermelon for him. She comments on how nice they look and goes to the back to prepare for the inspection when she is stopped by Macy. The famous foodie volunteers to assess his goods. They slice one open, and she takes a piece to taste. Her face lights up as she remarks on how refreshing the texture and sweet the flavor is. Her rave review gets the others excited as they fight for the slices left. Urza pleads with him to allow them to sell the watermelons exclusively, and he agrees. Ryota is just as surprised to see that the watermelons are just as popular as the bamboo shoots. The thought of having another source of reliable income gets him excited. Urza confirms that the watermelons drop at level 5 of the Tellulu dungeon before asking him if he has gotten his license. She explains that the license permits an adventurer to explore more dangerous lower levels of dungeons. Once granted, he will be able to use it across all dungeons in the world. This is very important because the danger of dungeons increases every 5 levels, so a new license is needed at the same intervals. With that in mind, he will be applying for one that will allow him to explore from levels 6 to 10 without any problems. The traders are not permitted to buy drops from those who acquire them from those levels without a license. Ryota can see the logic in that, as it prevents people from risking their lives for valuable drops. She recommends that he gets one to make things easier for himself in the future. Ryota later heads to the license office with Emily. They are rudely greeted by the tester, who picks a melon that was dropped at level 6 or lower of the Tellulu dungeon. He takes them to an arena and explains that he's going to turn it into a stray. If he can defeat it, he passes. A steel slime spawns from it. Emily explains that it is so hard that blades are useless against it. Ryota charges in with his S-rank strength, but it just eats his punch. He changes tactics and hits it with a fire bullet first before cooling it down rapidly with an ice bullet. The guy must be a material scientist because his little move makes the steel slime brittle, allowing him to shatter it with a simple tap. He explains what he did to Emily and the examiner. After witnessing his skills, Ryota gains the approval of the assessor. He goes as far as to say that he has never been more impressed in his 10 years at the job. Soon after, Ryota is given his license. To better prepare himself for what's to come, he pleads with Emily to help him get something. A few days later, the duo head to the wasteland, and it is revealed that Ryota wanted 1.5 million pilos because he was interested in buying some tuna. They place it down and wait for it to turn into a stray, which happens to be the same kind of gorilla that attacked the city. Ryota assures her that everything will be fine. He hits it first with a freezing bullet to immobilize it and ends it at point-blank range. Emily comments on his progress because this time he defeated it with ease, unlike the first time. Just like he suspected, the defeated gorilla stray drops another gun and some regular bullets. With this, he can dual wield now, which will make special bullet combos a lot easier. Emily sees how overpowered the guy is with one gun and has a look of worry on her face that he has another one. She just hopes that Ryota doesn't turn evil. He sees her worry and promises her that he will always be peaceful as long as she's around. He later tests his new pistol and gathers a decent number of bean sprouts. He is informed by Urza that a strike has been called on her by the Adelberg group. They want her to increase the price of rice, otherwise they will not sell to her, and it is the only place where rice can be cultivated in the area. Ryota heads over there to see what he can do. He's shocked to find Neptune there. He has been requested to take them out since this is not their first time doing this. Ryota pleads with Neptune to allow him to sort it out. He subdues them by firing a double-heeled bullet which fuses to make a sleep bullet. Neptune is impressed. Ryota reveals that countless combinations can be made with the different types of bullets. For example, a fire and freeze bullet turns into an erasing bullet. He figured this out with Emily the last time they hunted together. The troublemakers are apprehended, and later, Clint, the dungeon chief of the city, calls Ryota in for a meeting. Given his recent performance, he wants to enlist his aid in a battle for a new dungeon against the neighboring city of Hetero. The dungeon chief reveals that all dungeons east of the city have meat drops, and Hetero is in such an area. However, a new dungeon was found halfway between Hetero and Sekro. They are all surprised to know that the drops are half vegetable and half meat. It is important that they lay claim to it, as ownership of dungeons makes a huge difference in a town's economic health. To settle this, they have decided to determine ownership based on who gets more rare drops, and since Ryota is renowned for his strength and high drop rates, he can't think of a better help. Clint tells him that he will be compensated regardless of the outcome, and if they win, Ryota's taxes will be waived off forever. Ryota heads back and informs Emily, so the two decide to set off on his trip as a team. After a long day of traveling, they set up camp, and Ryota is shook at the setup Emily has put together. After they eat an excellent meal, Emily heads out to burn their trash, disclosing that trash turns into strong strays, which is why in town there are people dedicated to incinerating them. Ryota is interested in seeing it, so they allow it to spawn, and it is a Frankenstein. It easily blocks Emily's attacks and tanks a single fire bullet from Ryota. But when the guy dual wields it and shoots fire bullets, the flames are intense enough to take out the trash. The following day, Ryota tries the bullet they got from it on a slime, and it is a homing bullet, adding another dangerous weapon to his arsenal. The duo finally arrives at the contested dungeon, and there's a lot of trash because there are so many people trying to win it for their city. They notice a lady burning the flames. Ryota blushes a little because he finds her attractive. Although her fire magic is impressive, Ryota notices that she is being overworked, as he had the same eyes in his previous life. He goes to check on the lady, who collapses from exhaustion into his arms. Celeste regains consciousness shortly after and tells them that she is fine. Ryota informs her that she needs to rest. Her exhaustion is so bad that she can't even use her magic anymore, but she is still determined to work because she doesn't want to let everyone down. Ryota has seen this case all too often. The individual gets so overwhelmed with the responsibility that their health and spirit crashes, he goes as far as to include death as one of the consequences. Ryota puts Celeste out of her misery by hitting her with a sleep bullet. The lady wakes up after some rest, surprised by the change of scenery. She gets worried when she comes out and it's sunset. The lady rushes to the dumping ground. Just as Celeste arrives, the rubbish start to turn into strays, and as the monsters march towards her, Ryota identifies his ops and opens fire at them. Turns out that they have opened a bullet farming operation. Ryota rushes to pick up the homing bullets as Emily manages the dumping traffic. She notices that Celeste has woken up and scurries to inform her that she should get more rest. Ryota agrees and assures her that they will handle the trash in the meantime. He postulates that perhaps she woke up because she was hungry, so they wrap up their work, quickly allowing Emily to make a feast. Celeste is impressed by the spread. Ryota tells her not to worry about the trash outside because they have moved next to the collection site. Emily encourages her to eat up before it gets cold, so Celeste takes a sip of the soup. A tear slides down her face like a desperate mofo in an Instagram DM. She comments on how delicious it is. This brings back memories for Ryota too, so he gets a little emotional. Emily can see that she and Ryota are alike, as they both push themselves too hard. Everything has happened so fast that they use this opportunity to officially introduce themselves. After they finish eating, Celeste reveals that the dungeon drops are tax exempt until ownership is decided. That is why there are so many adventurers around. The trash that they are producing is too much for one person to handle. The duo offers to help her out when they have time, which Celeste is most grateful for. She falls back asleep as she is still tired. The following day, they meet up with her and detect that her magic is a lot more powerful. Emily comments that she looks fresher too. Celeste reveals that her magic has recovered to a greater level than normal and thanks them. The duo worries that she will just return to her previous state. so they offer her to stay with them till the event is over. Although she feels a little shy to accept, Emily makes the tent too comfortable to resist. With that settled, Ryota notifies her that he's going to the Sekiro HQ to get filled in on the operation. Emily will stop at the shops to see what they have to offer. They arrive and are surprised at the level of commerce. The duo stop at a jewelry shop and cannot believe the prices. Ryota learns that Emily likes rings, but they are too expensive for her. He makes a mental note of this and goes to meet Duke, who is the man in charge of the dungeon claiming operation. They get straight into business. Duke shows him the layout of the dungeon ceiling. It has 10 levels, and the vegetable drops are on the odd-numbered floors while the meats are on the even, creating a balanced split. This is why the owner has been chosen through this process. Ryota is informed of the tactics of how adventurers are being paid to find and capture the rare drops from the vegetable floors. Ryota will be called to finish it and harvest the rare drops. He is happy that his talents are recognized in this world. Their meeting is interrupted when word comes through that they have captured a rare monster. Harvard and his adventurers from Hetero come to swipe the monster if Ryota messes up. They have brought Eugene, a strong adventurer who has F-rank plant drop. If he exterminates the creature, nothing will drop, which would mean fewer rare plant drops for Sekiro. Ryota takes his first shot, but the monster regenerates. Shout out to the real one holding it down. The hetero adventurers are aware that the monster has a hidden core. If this is not destroyed, the monster regenerates stronger. The creature breaks free and Eugene springs into action to sabotage the drop. However, Ryota takes the monster out with a homing bullet, which they were not expecting. As they recover the soybean sprouts, the hetero adventurers storm off. He is rewarded for doing a good job and he gets to keep the drop. With this extra money, he buys the ring Emily wanted. She is so happy that she is brought to tears. The following day, she notices that her stats have been buffed by 1. Ryota confesses he found out that the vendor had more rings, so he allowed the one he bought to turn into a stray to see what kind would appear. After defeating the monster, it dropped an identical ring that has boosts attached. She is excited to test it out. They make their way to the second level, which happens to be a meat level. Emily takes out a tree monster and is surprised that it dropped a chicken breast. I know some vegetarians will be pissed. She is happy as it is her first meat drop. The lady reveals that her animal drop rate is rank F, so this is rare. The ring has boosted her to E rank, which is significant because some dungeons will not allow someone with an F rank to enter. They even have a nickname called Final for the F. Their conversation is interrupted when Team Herrero find a rare monster on their floor. Emily thinks fast and removes her ring, which brings her back to F rank. She defeats the monster before the Herrero adventurers. This blocks their chance of getting a rare drop. Duke gets word of this and later thanks the duo. He reveals Harvard's plan to flood the vegetable levels with F-rank plant drop adventurers. Ryota suggests that they take out as many rare monsters before that happens. They execute the plan by defeating the monsters from different levels. Given the number they have vanquished, Duke is confident that they will win, so he leaves Ryota to report it to the headquarters. Ryota hangs back to make more money when he's ambushed by a salty Eugene since they are out of a job now. They attack Ryota, but he dispatches them without a sweat. Eugene is surprised to see him heal the man that just attacked him. Ryota understands their frustration and informs them that he will defeat and heal them as many times as they need to get their anger out. He will never lose because he has someone waiting for him at home. Eugene gets humbled by this and smiles. Ryota returns to the tent and receives a warm welcome and food. This man is one lucky mofo. Ryota and Celeste sit down with their mouths open when Emily serves the food. She runs off after informing them that there is more and comes back with cake. They wonder how she baked it over the campfire, but their curiosity hits a different level when she tells them that she has ice cream too. The duo enjoy the feast, and the following day, Ryota comes out to meet Celeste burning trash. Little residue remains, and he's surprised to see her use a high-level spell to deal with it. He rushes over to hold her when she collapses from exhaustion again and hits her with a heal bullet. When she regains her stamina, she realizes that Ryota is close to her, which flusters her, so she pushes him away. She slaps herself to calm down before revealing she can only use the level 3 fire spell. Some adventurers interrupt and bring their trash to be burnt. Ryota decides to help her incinerate them since he's not as busy. She thanks him for the help, and after a while, he complains that no matter how much they burn, it doesn't seem to make a dent. Celeste remarks that the day's workload is abnormally intense. She attributes this to the appearance of the dungeon master. Emily explains that it is the boss of the dungeon, and they only appear once every few months. They are very strong and dangerous monsters. No one is allowed to enter the dungeon because of it, so everyone is stress eating, which means more trash. The situation situation demoralizes her, so Emily tries to cheer her up by informing her that a team will be created to defeat it soon. She assures her that things will be back to normal by the following day. Ryota encourages her to get some rest while he deals with the workload and signals Emily to take her away. He clears the rest of the work, but by the next day, the trash piles up again. Emily updates them that the team to get rid of the dungeon master should be assembled now. Ryota leaves them to deal with the trash while he goes to get more information. Celeste asks Emily why Ryota is so nice to her, and she reveals that he just likes to help people in need. It is that nature that has made him popular in his hometown. Ryota arrives at the HQ and is surprised to see Neptune. Duke notifies him that they have been employed to help deal with the dungeon master. However, the two cities agreed to collaborate to deal with the dungeon master if it appeared. Neptune's group will be going from their side, but Hetero has not tried to present their party. If the dungeon master lingers around long enough, the ecology of the dungeon changes, and if that happens, then the party will have to contest for the dungeon again. Ryota decides to go in alone, but that is not possible when facing a dungeon master. Only a group of no less than 3 adventurers are allowed in with stats ranked A or higher. That is how dangerous the boss is. Ryota decides to go around to find some adventurers to form a party with, but no one is interested as they have only come for the profits aligned with the tax exemption. They have not come to put themselves in such danger. We see Eugene gathering his comrades to take over the burning of the trash. This frees up Celeste. It is revealed that she is A rank in intelligence and will. Emily and Ryota also meet the requirements, so the 3 form a party to take on this threat. They enter the dungeon and there is no monster around, meaning no drop. Emily points out that this is why they must defeat the boss as quickly as possible. The floor begins to crack towards their direction, so Ryota quickly grabs his people and escapes the flooring debris. The dungeon master makes an appearance, and it looks like My Little Pony took a page out of Zoro's book and got lost in the wrong anime. Emily and Ryota meet the legendary bicorn head-on as it dashes toward them. She clashes with it, but the powerful barrier around it knocks her back. It tries to stomp her out like what gangsters do to their ops, but Ryota intervenes. It allows her to recover, but the bullets do nothing to it. Celeste executes a powerful fire attack that dispels the barrier, which creates an opening for Emily to land a blow. Ryota follows up with some shots, but the boss erects its barrier quickly. All the while, word reaches HQ that Ryota and his party are fighting the bicorn. Back inside, the creature casts a spell that reduces their stats by 2 ranks. Emily still attacks, but she is blown back again. They glance over and Celeste's HP needs some milk as it looks like it has been hit by the wombo combo. Emily stays with her while Ryota finishes the job. She apologizes for being more useless than a sack of potatoes as she thinks about how he pulled her out of the darkness. These emotions give rise to a momentary spike in her power, which allows her to unleash a one-time anime moment fire attack which breaks the barrier. Emily throws her hammer to Ryota, which he uses to land the final strike. He rushes to Celeste, who regains consciousness. She gets emotional that she was of help. Ryota and Emily decide to give her the bicorn drop as a reward for her hard work. The bicorn horns allow her to use level 1 magic without limitations. They return to inform Duke that they defeated the dungeon master. The guy is flabbergasted and quickly rushes to notify the higher up. The 2 ladies from Neptune congratulate and thank Ryota for his good work. He wonders where their leader is, but they give a vague answer, not knowing that he has a meeting with the leader of the Hetero to berate him for making him miss his chance to fight Ryota. The following day, Celeste casts her first level 1 spell with the aid of the horns, and she expresses her gratitude to Ryota. Through their conversation, it is revealed that the ecology of the dungeon has not changed, so for now, it belongs to Sekiro. Ryota asks her to come with them back to Sekiro. She simultaneously asks if she can go back with them. Emily is happy to have her on board, and they are all joyful to hear that Ryota is starting an official party for their adventures. They arrive back in Sekiro, and as they walk through the streets, the residents comment on Celeste's beauty. Urza runs into Ryota and his party. Word of their exploits has reached the city. She gets a little intimidated by Celeste's looks and quickly informs Ryota that she will need his help regarding the upcoming Harvest Festival before leaving. Emily and Celeste go and gather more information about the event. They report back and explain that the Harvest Festival is held annually in Sekiro. Rare items are displayed and allowed to turn into strays and defeated by adventurers for the spectacle. While the other 2 were gathering intel, Ryota increased his speed to S rank and moved to the next level where his vitality leveled up. Currently, he allows the seeds to turn to strays and defeats them, obtaining a binding bullet. Ryota asks Celeste to keep it a secret that strays can drop items. Celeste blushes that Ryota trusts her enough to reveal such information. The commotion in the city draws their attention, so they rush back to find that a rare stray is running wild. Celeste uses a fire spell and Emily follows up with a hammer hit, but her weapon gets bent. Ryota hits the monster in the air and binds it with his new bullet before finishing it off with a void shot. It drops a pouch which he retrieves, but their attention is now on Emily's broken weapon. Ryota promises that they will buy a new one. The following day, a weaponsmith decides to sponsor a new hammer for her since it will be good PR for them. She happily agrees and gives the specifications for her new weapon. Ryota later saves the princess in the Nihonium dungeon and suggests they sell rings instead when they complain about how bad sales are with the royal's heir. They leave and thank him for the advice. It is revealed that seeds automatically got picked up and stored in the new pouch, as that is its ability. He heads off to the Tellula dungeon to get some drops that he later sells at the exchange. Urza reveals the favor she wants, and she gives him a list of rare drops she would like Ryota to get for him in time for the festival. He is more than happy to help and finds out that the money in this world also drops in dungeons. Ryota leaves a note out which turns into a stray bird. He shoots it down, and it reveals a potion that boosts one's plant drop rate by 3 ranks for 10 minutes. Eve finally catches up to him as she has been looking for the hero since his arrival. He knows she wants his carrots, so he takes her to the dungeon and captures some for them. She reveals that her love of carrots came from another worldly boy whose carrot drops were tasty, but that person went back to his world without a trace. Ryota gives her the potion, which increases her plant drop rate to A. She harvests her carrots and pleads with Ryota to allow her to join this party. He grants her wish and then introduces her to the rest of the gang. One day, a magic storm sweeps through Sekiro, causing Celeste to fall sick. Ryota suggests they move to a house that has the latest magic storm blocking technology. They shop around and Ryota agrees to pay the high rent when he notices that the place makes Celeste feel better. They quickly settle into their new home and head to the dungeon as a party to gather a few of the rare items on the list. With some solid teamwork, they find success. Urza pays them 3 million pilos for the slime teardrop. The party celebrates and leaves as Alice comes in looking for a party to join. Meanwhile, Ryota makes it to the next level of the dungeon Nihonium, where his magic points get leveled up after defeating a powerful skeleton, and he starts thinking about learning magic. Celeste reveals that most people learn magic by leveling up, but since Ryota can't do that, he buys a magic fruit for 3 million. It allows the eater to learn a random magic spell. He lets it turn into a stray and defeats it. It morphs into a fruit that allows him to learn 2 spells when he ingests it. Ryota later shows his party that he gained level 1 wind magic. He also gained a spell that allows him to apply his S rank drop rate to anyone who defeats the monster that he cast the charm on. This means that he can help other party members rank up while also benefiting from his S rank drop rate. On a different day, he prevents Alice from joining the party of the old man who overworks his subordinates. He invites her to join his party, which she accepts after hearing how famous the Ryota family is. Her max level is 2, so they head to the Nihonium to help her reach it. It is revealed that Alice was born in a dungeon, so she's able to locate the monsters. After defeating the monsters captured by Ryota, they find out that Alice can turn some of her defeated foes into her familiars. She captures a skeleton, naming it Bonesy, and a slime that she names Jiggly. He later introduces her to the party, and they all agree to accept her. Celeste is infatuated by her familiars, but they fear her. Some time passes, and the day of the festival finally comes. Ryota and Emily go since everyone else is busy. As they look around, Alice joins them and informs them of a store that allows one to gain experience points by defeating the strays inside the boxes sold. They try it to help Emily level up. Ryota casts his drop rate spell on the creature before she defeats it. The creature drops a bullet known as the strengthening bullet, which increases the power the guns make. Ryota is impressed with it and knows that he will make a killing selling it to America, so he suggests they head to buy more boxes. A stray gets out of its cage, which makes everyone to panic, and just as it's about to attack a little girl, Ryota takes it out. But every time they defeat it, it grows. With the help of the Neptune family, they vanquish it. Celeste and Eve join them after the battle. They eat and see the rest of the sights till Ryota teams up with Celeste to enter the arena to compete. The duo ends up winning and are given fireworks as their reward, which is rare in this world. That night they unleash them. Just as they finish playing with it, Alice enters a trance and starts walking away till Ryota snaps her out of it. She reveals that someone was calling to her in the direction of the Nihonium dungeon. The following day, the hero Sekiro is summoned by Clint, the dungeon chief of Sekiro. During their meeting, it is disclosed that drops have stopped in all the dungeons. Prices for things are already going up, and Ryota promises to help get to the bottom of it. He figures that it is a problem caused by the Nihonium dungeon master when he finds out that he still gets drops when he defeats the monsters. Ryota quickly rushes over to face the master and is surprised that his guns don't work on her. She swiftly knocks him back with a kick and waits for him to recover with a receptionist smile. He tries to attack again, but the bullets goes through the boss, allowing her to counterattack. As he regains composure, he figures out that part of the dungeon master's body becomes physical when she attacks. This is proven when a homing bullet hits. He uses this tactic to take out one of the boss's hands and legs in an attempt to turn her into Joe from Family Guy. This significantly decreases her power and speed, allowing him to defeat the boss. He collapses due to the heavy damage. He's woken up by Emily, who loads a recovery bullet in his gun for him to use on himself. She cries as she warns him not to push himself so hard. She informs him that his win over the dungeon master has returned the dungeon to normal. He wants to keep this achievement private. Ryota picks up the ring dropped by the boss before they head out and are met by the rest of the party, who are relieved to see him safe. The following day, he heads to the lower level of the Nihonium dungeon to test out the ability of the ring. If the description is true, it will be highly overpowered. He defeats some enemies, and they turn to crystals. He comes across the princess, who complains that despite her being level 94, her abilities are not improving. They head outside, and he gives her some of the crystals, which increases her level. The ring turns any experiences Ryota gains after maxing out abilities into crystals, which he can give to others to level up. It so happens that the princess is a late bloomer when it comes to abilities. Her powers only begin to drastically improve as she reaches her max level, and hearing this makes them happy. He uses the ring to level up the rest of his party. They head to the license office, where Emily and Celeste gain their license to explore the more challenging levels. With that, Ryota suggests they work and gather their money. They make enough to buy magic carts for everyone. He has them connect to a room in their house where the drop arrives. Urza is hired to appraise them in the room, and with everything settled, they throw a party to celebrate. Everyone comes and they have a good time. Ryota is just happy that he was sent to this world, bringing the season to an end.